I'm Sarah Caminiti. This is Epochal Growth, a growth support podcast. This is our second episode, and I had the pleasure of having a chat with Conor Pendergrast. Conor is a consultant with over 15 years of leadership and mentoring experience. Throughout Conor's career, he had the chance to really learn a lot about navigating transitions and became the parent whisperer at Expensify for many years because he understood what needed to happen when people were moving into such an incredible new stage in their lives. This episode is an opportunity to think about transitions. Think about transitions as an opportunity to prepare and an opportunity to embrace change. Change happens all the time. Change doesn't have to be something that we're quiet about. In fact, acknowledging change in our lives, embracing change as a leader sets the tone for how the employees are going to handle change and transitions. But in life, it's very easy to get overwhelmed when change happens. And everybody handles change so differently, and you won't know how they're going to handle that change until you're in the thick of it. So why not be prepared? Why not be prepared so that the people on your team can instead spend their energy on being excited for something like welcoming a new person into their family? Take one stress off of your list and their list, because life happens. As leaders, we have the chance to make those moments one where we can offer support instead of concern or stress. If you're back after you've listened to episode 1, holy cow, thank you for experimenting with me again. Thank you, Conor, for allowing me the opportunity to have a conversation about something that's so important but isn't spoken about frequently enough. So once again, this is Epochal Growth, episode 2, with Conor Pendergrast, the Parent Whisperer. Enjoy.
Thank you, Sarah Caminiti. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very pleased to be on the podcast. I think transitions and career transitions and life transitions are a topic that I love supporting people through. Certainly, I had a lot of experience, so I've got about 15 years of experience in managing people, leading people, mentoring people. And a lot of my time at Expensify, in particular, the sort of latter 5 years at Expensify, ended up being like the parent coach, the parent whisperer, because I had kids, and I think I did it quite openly and was very like vocal about what was going well and what was going wrong. And as a result, I built this little cohort of people who came to me. And I'd always, so genuinely, what would happen is you'd get your applications for, we did a yearly mentor rotation at Expensify. So you'd get your applications, people would apply and say, like, here's what I'd like help with. And it would be up to 3 people. So I'd get 3 people applying to be mentored by me. And I would look at the 3 names and I'd be like, okay, I wonder which of these 3 is pregnant or expecting kids in the next 6 to 12 months. And with it, like on cue every single time there was someone in there, and it was really good fun. Yeah, so and that's the type of transition that I'm pleased to speak to you about today, and hopefully share a little bit of experience there and share a little bit of wisdom, either for people supporting employees, supporting colleagues, supporting mentees going through this huge life transition, as you know, or for people directly who are going through it themselves.
No, I'm so excited for this talk. I think that feeling okay to talk about it is not the norm. There's always still that, do I dare even mention that I'm a parent? Do I dare mention that my kid is screaming in the next room? And what are the realities of going on leave? What do I need to prepare myself with? Because every company is so different in what their expectations are, what they have set up, what they haven't even thought about because it's a startup and no one has taken any leave before. That it's a very gray and nerve-wracking time on so many levels. So super pumped for this, and I'm so glad that you're here to share.
Yeah, and I suppose I will own my privilege as well, which is that I am a middle-class white man in England. So I do have, I think we have slightly more of an expectation and a legal requirement around parental leave. It is pretty terrible for men here, but for women it is definitely slightly better. So if
Oh,
people are probably listening in considerably different and varied cultural contexts, and as you say, company contexts as well. So
yeah,
it's
that's a great point.
it's going
I'm
to be
glad that
very
you pointed that
varied as
out. Yeah.
well.
Um, so I'm very curious from a legal standpoint,
Mhm.
what is the requirement in the UK for men?
So for men, if you're a man who's having kids, the legal requirement is that you have 2 weeks of parental leave, of which one of them has to be paid. And I'm not sure if you feel, from your experience, how long 2 weeks is in terms of parental leave. But I certainly do feel like that's extraordinarily low. And if you're being given that, then it's so my wife Alana likes to say this about the minimum wage, and we were talking about this topic earlier today, and she said if someone is giving you that as parental leave, then what that means is they would give you less, but it would be illegal to do so. So
That's very true.
a lot of people don't have an option about finding a new place to work. But if you are considering, this is maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but this is if you're considering having kids in the next couple of years, find out what your parental leave policies are ahead of time and choose strategically based on that, based on somewhere that will support you through the transition or not support you through the transition.
Definitely. And if you're looking for a new job too, don't be afraid to ask those questions when you are in the interview process, because
Hmm.
even if you're not thinking about this in the next year or so, if you can get them to confirm or deny or set those expectations,
Yeah.
then when that time does come, you already feel pretty good about what you're going to be walking into. And if things have changed, then you can ask for clarification.
And certainly there is discrimination at that stage as well.
Sure.
Like if they're both against people who are pregnant and people who would become parents in other ways. So when you're asking these questions, you could ask it in the context of other questions as well. So asking about a vacation policy, asking about a bereavement policy, asking about a parental leave policy, and lower the risk to yourself as a candidate in that process.
Great point.
If you are on the other side of this and you are a recruiter, or you're part of the recruitment process, offer this information. Like, don't wait for someone to ask you. Lower the risk for them by saying, listen, here's a couple of policies that we have, and here's the details around them as it stands today. Just that's a good way of lowering the temperature a little bit in the conversation and making it easier for that candidate. The
100%.
maybe the other question, thinking on the topic of like what you should be finding out as well from an employer, from your employer, and what information you could offer is what kind of notice do you need to give to
Mhm.
take parental leave? How much flexibility is there in that leave? So, for example, um, it is relatively common and is quite beneficial at times to take your parental leave at separate times.
Yes.
So you're there if again, I'm mostly thinking about it from the perspective of a man who has a wife and who has a female partner who gave birth. So I'm going to frame it in that perspective, but this can apply to other people who are becoming parents as well. So one of the ways that I've seen it happen is you take sort of 2 to 3 weeks at the beginning, through those earliest and in a lot of ways simplest days,
Yes.
um, and then you transition back to work, and then later on when there's another, we're come back to the T word, when there's another transition of some sort, take more time there. So, for example, if you've got a parent or a parent-in-law, and your parent or parent-in-law are coming to give some help after those first 2 blissful weeks or 3 blissful weeks, that can be the support that you need
Mhm.
to transition back to work. If they're leaving after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, then hey, that's a good time to take a
Yes.
little bit more time off. So that would be the first level of flexibility that would be useful to think about. The second level of flexibility would be, can you also scale it down? So can you, if you are provided with, let's say best case scenario, you're getting 16 weeks parental leave. So being able to split that over a period of time and say,
Mhm.
okay, well, I took for our second child, I took 3 weeks off immediately, and then things were going really smoothly and easily, he said naively, and then I transitioned back to work and actually split that time 50%, 50% for the remaining 18, basically to make it 18 weeks instead of 9 weeks. The purpose for that was there were some work related purposes, so I wanted to get back earlier to contribute to work, but I also wanted to balance against the other commitments we had at home. Um, for example, in this case, my wife, who's a chronic overachiever and workaholic, she was desperately racing to get her PhD done and submit, and just being able to have that flexibility was really beneficial to support her own career ambitions and career needs, as well as mine at the same time. So those are some examples of things you can ask when you're considering working for a company, or when you're working somewhere and want to find out more about the parental leave policies. It's not simply a case of the number of weeks that you get, paid or unpaid, for example.
Yes. And if you have the opportunity to talk with anyone that has had the leave, connecting with other people beforehand too, to get that firsthand experience, because it really sets the tone for how the company treats parents and
Yeah,
thinks about parents. And is this a space that I'm going to feel excited
yeah.
to be able to be a parent and excel in my job and supported to do so.
Yeah. So maybe the next thing to think about as well is like, when do you start talking about this? Here in the UK, we get a 20-week scan for pregnancies. That's the point at which people
Yeah.
typically start to feel comfortable talking about a pregnancy. If you are at that point, if you're getting to that point, that might be a good time to start thinking, okay, who should I talk to? Who's my mentor? Who's my leader? Who's the person around me who can help me to sort of mentally prepare for this big transition. Look around you and think like, okay, who are the people who seem to be parents who also, maybe this is just my selfish perspective, but seem to be parents who actually talk about being parents as well, and also have a bit of a life outside work. Because I think, well, maybe that's a bit might be a bit of a too much of a hot take, but I think in particular men are given a lot of permission to just sort of uh, and expectation maybe as well as permission, just to not talk about
Hmm.
family at work, and not talk about parental leave, and not talk about focus on work at the detriment of family life and to the
Yeah.
detriment of their partners' careers as well, which I would say is very different from a a decision between partners.
Like there is some air of guilt and pressure. And I
Yeah.
think it's because men don't talk about it enough.
Hmm.
And it's not a safe thing where they feel confident in taking advantage of these opportunities, or just, I don't even think that it's an opportunity. It
I
is
would say
it's a
basic
basic
elements of
right to be able to,
society that allow us to continue as a species.
yes,
Like,
to, and just support and spend time with your
mhm.
family. You
Yeah.
which is a bummer. But hopefully, it's conversations like this and folks like you, Connor, that are going to help make it just more of a normal thing that people bring up. And it's just an exciting moment to celebrate,
Yeah.
not something to fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I do think there is definitely an element of pressure there, and an element of cultural expectations.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, if you're feeling that pressure, I'm sorry, and I would like to help if I can. So okay, all right. So congratulations, in around 5 months, you're having a baby, and your life is changing irrevocably. And we're all going to
Mhm.
send you the Andy Samberg on that chat show where he's like, "Welcome to hell." Um, but it's not going to be hell. It'll be wonderful, but only if you prepare. So how do you prepare? I guess that's the question. And I do have some suggestions around how you can prepare. Or if now we come to the part, if you are a mentor, or if you are a manager, or if you are a leader, and one of your employees has come to you and said, "Oh my God, I'm going to have a baby in 4 months, 5 months. This is so exciting." You're like, "Yeah, this is great. What do I do? How do I
Yeah.
support them through this time?" Here's some suggestions about what you could do, either as the employee or as the leader or manager or mentor in that situation. I think the first thing is, and this is something that my coach at the time, the first time I was having a baby, he's Bill Bounds. He's quite well known within the support driven community. Not only because he has a fantastically alliterative name,
That is a good name.
I remember freaking out at him in a one-on-one that we had. I think it must have been January 2020, and our kid was due in March 2020, and I was just like, I just don't know what to do. I like how do I prepare for this? And he was just like, okay, so what do you do at work? And he, like, all we did was this simple step of writing down my responsibilities and writing down the weird stuff that only I did, because there were several things at the time that only I did. And so what I did was I wrote down all of the teams that I was part of, all the chores that I performed, all the processes that I did. There was I did I think it was a monthly report on customer support and how
Yeah.
that was progressing over time. And we just went through them and we're like, okay, does someone actually need to do this anymore? Or have we outlived the usefulness of this process? If it does need to be done, then great. What's the team or individual who needs to do this while you're away? Perfect. And honestly, that was the single. If you're going to take anything away from this, it's just like go and work out what your job is, and to prepare for being away for between, let's say, 2 and 16 weeks. Write down those things and work out who should do them if they still need to be done. And if there's anything, if that's the only thing you take away from this conversation, do that one thing. In fact, probably anyone should do that just like
Parental
all
leave
the
or
time.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is such a great, and I like your approach to do it simply. Look at what's going on right now. How are you spending your time? How well is it documented? And think about how that progresses over the next couple of months. Are there things that happen within a certain period of time every year that you're involved in that you need to be cognizant of? That'll probably be in your calendar anyway. But it is so easy when you're overwhelmed thinking about what's going to happen at home, overwhelmed thinking about the impact this is going to have on your job and your team and the customers, to just panic
Yeah.
and forget what really needs to happen. And it's documented processes, clear outlines for what the expectations are, and then who they need to go to if they
Mhm.
have questions.
Mhm. Exactly. It sounds so simple, but it's a very effective tool
Mm-hmm.
to lower the stress level around taking leave and being on leave, and then importantly for coming back for leave as well. I think another really effective way of doing that as well is people often feel like, oh my God, I'll miss out so much if I'm away for that long. Maybe, but one of the tools that you could use is you can ask one of your colleagues, preferably someone from a similar team as yours, to be a parental leave buddy for you. And so I was a parental leave buddy for probably 2 or 3 people during my time at Expensify. And then I also, given that I took 2 parental leaves, I had a parental leave buddy in each of those cases as well. And my expectation of them was that they would just like make a note of any significant discussions that happened while I was away, or any significant process changes, or um, anything that came up with customers that should be flagged, like anything that maybe looks like a long-term risk to their continued use of Expensify. That was another effective tool in making me feel really good about coming back, because when I came back, I just had this Google Doc and I just looked from top to bottom, chronological order for recordings of the all hands. They were in there, so we did a monthly all hands. I can go back and watch that. That's a good strategic check-in on the company. There are no video meetings at Expensify at all. There's no synchronous meetings at all. There are one-on-ones between 2 people, right? Anything that involves more
Wow.
than 2 people, it's all in organized, structured Slack discussions. And so
Yeah.
if that's great to catch up on, because
Yeah.
suddenly you can go away and you can come back and be like, what, when did this decision happen? And it's like, oh, here's the discussion around it, here's all the debate around it and why we came to the conclusion. That's really helpful. So it was links to those kind of discussions as well. And I think the parental leave buddy and the parental leave buddies doc is a really helpful way of organizing your thoughts, and well, of organizing the stuff that happened while you're away, and catching up very, very quickly and very effectively.
It probably would also help those that are taking leave stop themselves
Mm.
from
From checking in,
getting into
yeah.
Slack. Take this time, take a step.
Here's an effective tool and an option that we offered as well at Expensify. I never took this off because I had the willpower to not need to. We always had the option of you getting kicked out and locked out of Google and of your work Google account and of your work Slack account while you're on parental leave. Always had that
Whoa.
option. Yeah. And so that was for those people who felt like they wanted to not have to resist the temptation. So maybe the next point I'd say is if you are a manager or a mentor or a leader, this is less so for the person themselves who's going on parental leave, so cover your ears for a moment. But I think you're probably going to have to set some expectations, especially if they're a first-time parent. They will not be the same person when their family expands to include another person. They will not have the same level of energy. Weekends will have a very different vibe to them. Evenings, you've got to drop someone off in the morning to nursery. Like, this is just thinking about my life at the moment with a 4-year-old and a 7-month-old, almost 8-month-old actually. You've got to drop kids off. You got to get them out of bed. First of all, you got to get them out of bed.
Or they're probably going to get you out of the bed much earlier than anticipated.
Depends on, yeah. Well, it'll be one of two situations. Either they're dragging you or you're dragging them. Someone's dragging someone out of bed. And then 2 hours later, you drop off one of your kids. For us, you drop off one of your kids at daycare. And then 8 hours after that, you go and pick up that kid from daycare. And like, you've got to squeeze in work at some point. 8 hours sounds like lots, but like, you've also got other life to do in that period of time. And then you pick them up, and then it's like dinner time at bedtime, or bath time at bedtime, and then it's 8:30, and usually for me that means like a little bit more work in the evenings as well. But it's like just in terms of pure time, they will suddenly have considerably less time available. Sorry parent to be, you will have considerably less time available. And that's not even considering energy, because the night times get messy.
They're so messy, and they're going to be messy for a long time.
Such a long time. Such a long time. And then some of us do it again.
2 kids are great. They're awesome.
Yeah, 2 kids are fantastic, and everyone, if you have 1 child, have a second child, it'll be perfect. It's easier the second time, they say. I don't know who they are. So I think that's probably, if you're a manager or a mentor or a leader it's probably going to be quite difficult to eloquently describe that to someone if you're not also a parent. So that's again a good reason. Put someone in touch with someone who's already a parent, and especially if they're a parent who's actually very present in their kids' lives. I think this probably segues nicely into as well another point, which is a suggestion, which is that you probably will want to start to make some sort of plans with your partner as well. Going back to the parent to be, you will probably want to start thinking about the division of labor at home. Who's cooking, who's cleaning, who's doing the basics of life, who's going grocery shopping, or who's organizing the delivery of groceries.
Right. Well, who's going to keep this house alive and functioning while also taking care and keeping a human or 2 alive?
Exactly. Yeah. And thinking about it practically, like certainly if you have a parent that's breastfeeding, that's a lot of time commitment.
Yes.
And that's a lot of sitting down in a chair. It's gonna look like it's not a lot, but it is a huge amount of energy and physical touch, and just in general, a lot to be dealing with on a daily basis, on a nightly basis for us. An extraordinarily long amount of time, and so just working out simple ways of making that easier, making it comfortable, making it accessible, making it a better experience is a really good idea as well. And the reason I say to start talking about it at this point is you probably don't want to be having these discussions while you're both sleep deprived and covered in vomit or on your 3rd t-shirt of the day, because those, like, from experience, just talk about it sooner. It's extraordinary the people who maybe it's just because my wife and I were together for quite a long time before we had kids. But I'm always shocked when people are going through this experience and haven't had conversations about like parenting styles or even the basics of like when you expect to return to work or what your parental leave plans are.
Yeah,
Get those conversations done earlier than you would expect.
definitely. Well, and I think a lot of it too is the environment at work sets a bit of the tone for how you're going to be approaching these things. If you're not allowed to talk about anything at work, if no one ever mentions anything at work, then it's scary to even think about bringing it up to your partner, because why is work so scared to talk about it? They're not the ones that are going to be up all night hanging with this kid. And what's happening here? What do I not know that I'm not supposed to know or not supposed to dare ask about? And or they've grown up with people around them that have a very stereotypical from the 1950s division of labor, and it's not even something that they think needs to be discussed these days. And
Hmm.
I love your connection to leadership of explaining the realities of life once a kid comes, because your friends are going to do it their way, but the folks at work know what's going to be happening to you in this job more than any person in your life. And to have those reality checks to say, when my wife had our baby, but something that caught me off guard was how labor intensive the breastfeeding process was.
Mm,
I did
exactly.
not think that that was going to have such an impact on us 3 months down the road. It does. And no
Yeah.
one really thinks about it that way. And now you've got someone that's got you starting to think, wait a second, I never even thought about the breastfeeding part. I thought that was
Hmm.
just something that just happens and they just watch TV or read a book or all of these other things. No, I think on average, the amount of energy that you exert in one feeding session is close to like a 4 mile run. And it could help get you into that frame of mind that you need to be in when you enter into this new phase of life
Hmm.
is a really valuable thing to provide to someone.
Yeah. So it sounds like they've prepared. They're all ready.
They, I mean, on paper, they
It's time for
are
parental leave.
ready to go. How do they say their goodbyes?
How do
How do
they
they
say
set
their
themselves
goodbyes?
up
That's a great
for that
question.
actual leave?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you're getting close to the due date, you should not be entering new projects. You should be mostly handing those off. Um, you can be supporting those projects, which I think is a really valuable thing to do. Like a lot of the time, there are projects that need a little more insight from and expertise from employees, but don't need more hands actually driving them forward. They just need those sort of editor kind of roles there. So step more into those positions during those last couple of weeks before a due date, because a due date is only a guess. It is not accurate. I think only 5% of kids are born within a week either of in
Yeah,
total of due dates or something
it's
ridiculous like that.
it's a guess.
And so in those last couple of weeks, certainly the last couple of days, it could just sort of have your own expectations that you could need to disappear very quickly. Um, the good part is probably after the birth, there'll be a period of time where you can maybe come back and then like properly close down.
That's a good point.
So that's what I did both times. You can go, you can usually have a period of time where you can come back to your laptop and then you can just sort of send your, for us, it was at Expensify, it was like I sent an email, gave a brief description of how things went, and then disappeared for the period of time. I also did create a WhatsApp group the first time so that people could come and just be spammed by my baby photos, of
Oh,
course.
great.
Because, I mean, these kids are gorgeous. Why would I not do that?
People should be paying to join this WhatsApp group
Okay,
to see these
that's
pictures.
there you go. I've been looking for new revenue streams for this consultancy that I'm
Wonderful.
setting up, and a paid newsletter product of baby photos
Yeah.
sounds, yeah, there you
Just
go.
yours.
Just mine. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And only to my friends, obviously.
Uh-huh.
I'll
Yeah.
tell them.
Mhm.
All right, so they've gone on their parental leave. It's all gone smoothly. No one's vomited on no one, or no one's had poonados. Which I think probably most people don't know what a poonado is, but they don't need to know. It's fine.
Yeah,
Don't
if
worry.
you don't know, enjoy this time
You
in your
will
life.
enjoy. Exactly. Um, and they're back. They're it's their first day back from parental leave. So I know. So there is a concept of keep in touch days. That would be mostly for people who are taking the longer side of parental leave. For example, the like 1 year long maternity leave that you see. And so in those longer periods of time, they have what's called KIT days, keep in touch days. So
Okay.
that's a day where you basically you are paid, obviously, you come back in to work for a day, half a day,
Hmm.
and you meet, you check in. If you're prepared, like you are as a result of this podcast episode, you
Exactly.
are checking in with your parental leave buddy, checking in with your manager or your mentor, and you're learning about how things have changed, because being away from work for a full year, that's a lot of context that can shift, and catching up on that level of notes, probably low value. So if you're doing these, let's say that you do 3, maybe 4 of those in total in a year, you've got a little bit more context when you get back, but without having to, constantly check Slack or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if you are back now, I would say that the first things you should be doing are go back to that parental leave buddy, go back to that parental leave doc, and read through that. That's
Mhm.
gonna be your source of value. Um, I certainly, I will say I set this out as an expectation before I went on parental leave. Um, so maybe this is a good little addendum to that as well, which is like if you are setting the expectations with people, and maybe you've created a Notion page for while you're on parental leave or something like that, put in one of the bullet points in there that you will be marking all of your emails as read and archiving them, and marking all of your messages in Slack as read, because that's what I did. When I got back, I looked for explicit mentions of my name in Slack, and I looked for direct messages in Slack, and then I marked everything else as read, and I went into my emails and I archived everything, because I mean, maybe it's different in other companies. Maybe if you're a team of like 5 people and you're going on parental leave, then you won't have that much. But we're talking like 200 emails a day level of volume and
Oh
thousands of
my.
Slack messages a day. Like you just, uh, it is not a valuable, it's probably not a valuable use of your time to look through
No.
those. And if you set up your autoresponder, then people know when you're back and they will be able to email you again. So that's one of the things that I did, and I really appreciated doing, because it
That's
saved me
really
a lot of
smart.
energy. Yeah. The you've done the prep work ahead of time, which is great. So you've got a parental leave buddy instead, and that is how you can find out about the stuff that you've really missed. Look through that parental leave doc, meet up with your lead, your mentor, your coach, whoever it is who's supported you through this, apart from your parental leave buddy, and find out what's going on, and then start to set your own plans. But be realistic,
Yes.
because you're probably going to be tired still. This
Hmm.
might shock you, but it's not the first couple of weeks where you feel the most tired. It's when they like lull you. Sorry, kids. It's when they lull you into a false sense of security.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, just be realistic, and honestly, so I think that's most of coming back. Like it's just you got to be realistic. You
Yeah.
probably
Give
hopefully
yourself
did your
grace.
homework before. Give yourself grace is a great point. Yeah, like yeah, you're probably going to be. I actually turn this into a little bit of a benefit. So
Mhm.
when I'm less tired now, because full disclosure, we part of our division of labor between my wife and myself is she does all the nights, and she
Mhm.
it's like again almost 8 month old, and she's done every single night. And then I get both kids up in the morning at 6:30, and she
That's
goes
what
and
we do
has
too.
another hour,
Yeah.
because the kids got to get up, and like how with both of them, if they are not up at 6:30, they are not asleep in the evening time. Just they don't. So that's part of how we divided the labor. But so I was definitely more tired the first time, which is a peculiarity, but that's just on my side, not on Alana's side. But one of the things I did as a result was when I was reading, let's say I was reading a design document or a proposal or something like that, or someone had drafted up a message or an email to a customer, anything like that. Like I'd get stuff to review all the time. I was tired, and so my brain would just be like, I don't understand this. There's too many there's too many three-letter acronyms. You've got to really write this. Like I can read it and consume that. So good news. That's a benefit for being a
That is.
sleep-deprived parent, is that you
Mhm.
can come into a situation and be like, this is too complicated.
Yeah.
Please rewrite this, revise this. Let's just like take out the number of syllables. Let's halve the number of syllables in the sentence, and that is so that can be a bit of a superpower for you as well. It's like
Yeah.
genuinely, like you are going to need to have simpler things. So work with people and get them to have simpler things.
Yes. No, you're a fresh set of eyes. You're,
I'm
again,
not sure a fresh set of eyes is the way of
well,
putting it.
a different set of eyes to look at those documents, and that's a great point. And
Hmm.
take advantage of it and capitalize on it. And maybe change some policies
Hmm.
for how to be more explicit when you're explaining things, because you never know what the other person on the receiving end is dealing with in their life, kid or not.
Yep.
And so making those things as explicit and easy to absorb as possible is never a bad thing.
Yep. Yep. And have fun. It's
Yeah,
amazing being a parent. It actually genuinely is.
it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. But also, being able to say that it's sometimes not awesome allows you to not feel guilty and be excited about those awesome moments even more. But now I've got to ask you, Connor, because we touched upon this briefly in the beginning. What would be the benefit of having someone like a coach
Mm.
set either a leader up or someone that's starting to move into that transition?
Hmm. So I think there are broadly two benefits of having a coach. Actually, I'll say three benefits. So the first benefit I think is you have someone with experience there to give you other ideas, um, and that's nice. Like for me, that's part of what I'm doing now. It's the main part of what I'm doing at the moment is I am an external coach for customer success, customer support professionals, um, both individual contributors but also leaders as well. So um, I balance both of those needs. So it is that experience comes and becomes incredibly valuable. The second part is accountability as well. If you're if you're in a smaller company, or even if you're very senior in a larger company, you'll tend to not have people um, not looking over your shoulder, but like checking in and making sure that the things that you've committed to do are the things that you're going to do and that you are doing. Or if you haven't done them, it's for a good reason, like plans have changed. So I think I can bring that to, or I think, excuse me, I'll rephrase that too. I think a coach can bring that to any people. The third thing though is also like a filter. So I get this. So I'm part of a training squad. And a training squad for triathlon. And one of the benefits of that is I don't have to go out and learn a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of research. I get all of the fads and everything filtered through the training squad that I'm part of. And so I get my training plan, and I get advice around it, around nutrition, around recovery, around how to prepare for races or events or just train on a daily basis. And it gets filtered through there and through their perspective and their lens. So a coach can also act as a filter. So a coach can, listen to 100 podcasts and be like, actually, this is the one podcast episode you should listen to. This is a really good one for this topic. Or they can have a little resource library that they go to and they say, we were talking about empathy with customers the other day, and here's the one thing that I would pull out for that. So it's a filter as well. I think it's
That's
the
a
the
great
third
point.
benefit. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that,
great.
I mean, ultimately that is the same as what being a great leader is, or being a great
Mhm.
mentor is those three little pillars there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that that last one highlights something of great importance, which is acknowledging the amount of information that's out there and the amount of time it would take to sift through everything.
Mhm.
If you are the leader of a team and you want to make sure that you are making the best choice for your team in this one very specific situation,
Mhm.
committing to the amount of time for you to be able to do that thoughtfully may not be possible if nothing exists and it's never really been done before, or even if you're not a parent and this is a new space for you.
Mhm.
And appreciating the opportunities that someone who is knowledgeable on this, who has spent that time to do the research, who has similar values to you and how you want to create the space for your team, gives you the confidence when you're talking to your team of, I didn't just do a Google search and pull out the first image and checklist and whatever for you. No, no, I care about you enough that I wanted to do this the right way, and I wanted to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. And
Hmm.
for a parent to be, your brain is filled with so much,
Hmm.
and it's everyone telling you this is what you have to do, this is how I did it, this
Endless
is what worked
advice.
for
Yeah.
me. And that is so overwhelming, and it is not going to apply to you at
Hmm.
all, because that is just the way that it works, and that's how it's supposed to work, because your kid is an individual and your parenting style is connected to your kid. And to have a coach that gives you that space to marry your life at home to your life at work, how you process these situations that may seem scary and make them be joyful. But this is one that is specific to your functions at work, and how
Hmm.
you can be proud of yourself at the end of your day, close your computer, and then become the parent, instead of thinking, crap, I thought I was going to have time to do this and I didn't. So now I'm going to do it between 2 and 3 a.m. After I put the other one down for his third round of wake ups, because that's not realistic. And that's
Yeah.
not fair to you or your family
Yeah.
or your job.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe to pitch myself a little bit, if you are heading into a period of change at work, like one of these transitions individually, I am available as a coach as well. You can find more about that at customersuccess.cx. So that's customersuccess.cx slash forward slash coaching. So customersuccess.cx forward slash coaching.
Wait, hold on a second. You got the domain name customer success dot.
Customersuccess.cx. I
What?
know. I
Holy.
remember looking at it and be like, how's no one got this one already? I know. Well, that's because .cx is actually the Christmas Islands. It's not like dot customer experience.
Oh, so did you have to do anything for like
No,
the
no, they
country
sell it to
stuff?
anyone. No, they sell it to anyone. Yeah, yeah.
Good
I know
for
it's good.
you. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
thanks.
See, this is why you need Connor as your coach, because he is
Exactly.
able to find these gems
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
special TLD.
Exactly. If you don't want to be coached by me though, you can also just subscribe to my newsletter, and that is at customersuccess.cx forward slash newsletter. Or maybe the last thing I'll mention is if you as a company are anticipating periods of change. I know we to prepare for this, we talked about a lot of different types of transitions. So maybe a company gets acquired, or maybe a company is going to IPO, or maybe you've just got a bunch of funding and you're about to really grow, or maybe you just are anticipating that you need to go through a period of change for your customer experience. I am launching a road mapping product as well, which might be live by the time this episode goes live actually. So you can read more about that at customersuccess.cx forward slash road mapping. So that's, yeah. And
Oh,
if you
those are
don't
great
know
services.
my domain by now, I don't know what else I could do.
Oh, we'll be repeating it. I'll probably figure out a way to put text on this so that it's flashing for anyone on
Yeah,
replay.
yeah.
Um,
Woo,
oh,
woo.
this side. But Connor, you provide such a great service, and I think that anyone would benefit from having you join them, because having an external person during these scary times or transitional times or overwhelming times um, takes a lot of the scariness out of it. No emotion. This is just
Mhm.
it. These are the requirements that you need to be successful. These are the things that you need to be thinking about. This is how it will impact people if you don't do it this way. And having an outside resource like yourself is really the best way to achieve it. So I know people are going to be flocking over there to take advantage of those services.
Let's hope so. Amazing.
Oh, well, thank you, Connor. Oh, wait, hey, I got to ask you that final question.
Oh my
So
God, you've got to.
at the end of all of my shows here, I like to ask my guests to think about, what era are you in your life, or what era do you see yourself moving into? And Connor,
Mm, yes,
what
hello.
era?
This is tricky. So I think we're probably in an era of reprioritization and refocus, because so we started 2024 thinking that we had an idea of how it would go, and then I left Expensify after 10 years, and like everything kind of changed, and also my wife submitted her PhD, as I was very excited about, and that's
Talk about
like,
transitions.
I know that's 6.5 years of work. And so, yeah, we're really thinking about what we want out of the next 5 years. And I've said it before. I've got a 4-year-old and a 7 or 8 month old, I guess, closer to 8. So let's round up. Um, and I'm recognizing that school is starting in September for our son, and that will mean much shorter days for him than
Yes, it will.
than in
I know,
daycare.
very
Uh,
exciting.
yep, very exciting. But it also means that like I have a moment where I can be more flexible with schooling and their lives. And I think so. One of the things that formed this for me was I lost one of my parents. One of my parents died 6 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
And and she had worked harder than anyone I have known in her professional context. She worked her butt off for basically for 50 years with the expectation that she'd have decades to enjoy her retirement. And and then that didn't happen. And so I think it made me realize that that delayed gratification of retirement, it is not a guarantee, and that now is the time to build those bonds and keep those relationships with my family, with my friends, with our community here. And that's certainly one of the drives for my move to consulting and coaching for CX professionals. And it gives me the ability to be flexible around our family, because realistically, we also don't know where we're going to live in a year. Like maybe we're here in the UK in Birmingham. Maybe we'll still be here in a year. Maybe still be here in 5 years. But we've got to work. What do we want to do when we grow up? Where do we want to live when we grow up? Who knows? So
Big
that's
question.
that's my take on it. Is that our family is in the era of reprioritization and refocus. So.
What a great way to end this call. I think that it's a really important thing to be focusing on right now, and you've got a lot of exciting things happening. And I just wish you all the best, Connor. I'm so happy that we had a chance to have this call.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being on this podcast. Maybe I shall come back to talk about
I
transitions in
have
the
a gut
future
feeling
again.
that you shall. We
Just,
have a
just
lot of
maybe.
transitions to talk about.
Yeah, stuff changes.
It does, often, every day. Enjoy
Lovely.
your day.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
Thank you, Connor. Bye bye. All right, that's the end of episode 2 of Epochal Growth, a growth support podcast. Thank you so much to Conor Pendergrast, the Parent Whisperer, for sharing your time with me. Listeners, thank you for coming back or meeting me for the first time. And if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to our YouTube page. That's Growth Support on YouTube. But you can also find me on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Please subscribe there so that you don't miss an episode. New episodes come every Tuesday. Look for me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. I'm so happy that you're here with us. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.